Hello, everyone. Can I ask you all, please, to mute yourselves just until we settle in and have the complete setup? Dr. Arwa, is it now working with you? Dr. Arwa, can you please write in the chat bar if you still have issues in the microphone? All right. So I think I will kick off the session of today. So not to use the best of the time we have. Welcome everyone who joined already and who are joining while speaking. Thank you very much for your interest and for being here with us today. Before we start, I just wanted to inform you that this session will be recorded. If you have any issues with that, please do write to me. You all have the contact details. If I may ask you all to mute yourself until you have the slot to unmute and ask your questions or comment on the project details that you will hear along this discussion. So with no further ado, I will start with a very brief introduction about the Newton-Khalidi Fund and the Newton-Khalidi Science Talks initiative. So this is the second episode of the Newton-Khalidi Science Talks. These talks are an initiative launched by the Newton-Khalidi Fund to highlight the success and the impact that these projects funded by the Newton-Khalidi since 2017 has been doing and has been impacting the people here in Jordan under the partnership between UK and Jordan. So Newton-Khalidi Fund, since it's launched, it kicked off 9 diverse programs. And by diverse, I mean we had programs in the research grants, we had programs in capacity building, workshops and trainings. We had also fellowship programs and translation programs in terms of translating research into the academic, into the industrial and the marketing sectors. So these science talks will be full of experience, inspiration, and opportunities for collaboration that everyone is willing to share as lessons learned and as best practices as well. So the first session was held in June. We had our launch 2 months ago, aiming to host one every 2 months. So here we are in the second session, and we invite you to watch the space for the future ones. The youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. And this is why we are hosting today in the second episode 2 projects funded by the Newton-Khalidi Fund that focused on youth engagement in celebration of Youth International Day, believing in the importance of inclusion and engaging youth of the community and university students as well to achieve sustainable development goals. First, today we have the Learning from Multicultural Amman project, which was shortlisted for the Newton Prize 2020 out of other 24 projects from Jordan. The project is a joint partnership between Durham University and the Hashemite University. in addition to other Jordanian and UK partner institutions. We also have the Living Museum of Qais project, which is led by University of Leeds and Jordan University of Science and Technology, which just yesterday celebrated the opening of their digital museum of Qais. So I'm sure Dr. Jihan will touch on that, but I invite you all to visit Qais in the coming 2 weeks to see that exhibition, which is very lovely and very touching. I will not share further information about the project, as we will have both projects presenting their background and the experience by the speakers we have today. I also wanted to share with you that on the occasion of Youth International Day and the youth focus of today's session, we also have something to share with you by the end of the session for Jordanian youth in particular. So these two projects, I just wanted to share with you that both projects are funded by the Cultural Heritage for Sustainable Development Research Grants, which is delivered by the Arts and Humanities Research Council, AHRC, in the UK, and the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research in Jordan. And hence, I will hand over to Ms. Gemma Evans from AHRC, the Newton-Khalidi UK delivery partner, who kindly joined us today to give the opening remarks. Gemma, I think you're here with us in the call, so thank you very much for being here today, and I will hand it over to you now.
Okay, thank you, Muna, for organising today's talk. And on behalf of the Arts and Humanities Research Council, thank you to all of the participants contributing to the event today. At AHRC, we are delighted to be a delivery partner of the Newton-Khalidi Fund in Jordan, and to see the results of much hard work undertaken by the research teams begin to come to fruition, especially under the extraordinary circumstances we find ourselves in. Heritage has been a long-standing priority for the AHRC, and in 2018 we were pleased to collaborate with the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research and the Department of Antiquities in Jordan to launch a joint research programme exploring Jordan's rich cultural heritage. The programme aims to bring together academic experts and wider partners in Jordan, from Jordan and the UK, to investigate the importance of cultural heritage for connecting communities with their histories and traditions, and exploring how heritage enables sustainable development, growth and employment. In 2018, a scoping and networking workshop was followed by the launch of a funding call, which has supported 7 collaborative Jordan-UK research projects. The 2 projects we're going to hear from today both have youth engagement at their heart, from investigating how the museum and education sectors in Jordan can enhance young people's skills, knowledge and employability, to developing exciting virtual environments to better engage communities with their social cultural history. These 2 projects are revealing the benefits of engaging young people with their multicultural heritage. Now I'll hand back to Muna for the next part of today's talk.
Sorry, it's always a struggle to unmute again and be back on the... Thank you very much, Gemma, for the opening remarks. And now, just to put you in the context of the session and the project that we will be speaking of, I will introduce very briefly the speakers of today from the 2 projects, and then we will hear more about the projects from the speakers themselves. So I will start with Dr. Arwa Badran, who's having some technical issues maybe, but now it is fixed. So Dr. Arwa, I'm just introducing you with the short biography.
Thank you.
Dr. Arwa Badran holds a bachelor degree in archaeology from the University of Jordan and a master and PhD in museum studies from Newcastle University in the UK. She worked as a lecturer in museums at the Hashemite University, contributing to developing the first degree in CRM and museology in the Middle East. She also worked as a consultant in heritage education projects and a trainer in museum studies in the Arab region. She served as acting director and course tutor for the Master Program International Cultural Heritage Management at Durham University, as well as research associate on the AHRC funded project Learning from Multicultural Amman, Engaging Jordan's Youth. She is currently an independent researcher and consultant in museums and heritage. So this is Dr. Arwa Badran, the first participant from the first project. We also have Dr. Maria Elena Ronza. Elena is a naturalized Jordanian who graduated in architecture from the University La Sapienza in Rome. I hope I pronounced this properly, in 2000, and completed her master's degree in archaeology at University of Jordan in 2004. She served on numerous national and international archaeological and conservation projects in Jordan, including several Department of Antiquities of Jordan projects between 2000 and 2005. Since 2004, she is the co-director of restorations of the Tel Hisban Archaeological Park project. Between 2006 and 2009, she served as consultant for restoration in the tourist development project of King Abdullah I Palace in Ma'an. She served as project manager and as project co-director with the American Center for Oriental Research, ACOR, Temple of Winged Lions Cultural Resources Management Initiative. Her career focus on sustainable tourist development of archaeological and heritage sites and on community engagement in heritage management. In June 2015, she founded with 4 associates a non-for-profit company, SELA, for training and protection of heritage, aiming at building local capacity within communities for a more sustainable management of the Jordanian heritage. Now going to introduce Sundus Hamad, our youth participant of the project. Sundus Sarhan Hamad just graduated with a bachelor degree in architectural engineering from Hashemite University with excellent grades. Sundus believes in the importance of human spirituality and the importance of establishing a balanced relationship between human needs and the environment. Sundus reflected that in several projects, one of which is the Learning for Multicultural Amman project. From the other project, the Living Museum of Qais, we have Dr. Jihan Salim. Dr. Jihan is an architect and associate professor at the University of Leeds in the UK. She was fellow of the Senator George Mitchell Institute for Global Peace, Security and Justice in 2017/18. Her interdisciplinary research bridges between architecture, urban politics, and digital heritage. Dr. Salim is leading several founded research projects with extensive fieldwork experience in the Middle East and conflict zone. We're talking about Egypt, Lebanon, Iraq, Jordan, and Northern Ireland. She is the author of Unfinished Places and Architecture, Space, and Memory of Resurrection in Northern Ireland. Then we have Rania Nazal. Rania from the Living Museum of Qais project as well. She's an archaeologist with a master's degree from the Hashemite University. Ms. Nazal has 3 years of experience with the Department of Antiquities, in addition to 7 years of experience in projects related to cultural heritage. Rania volunteered to work with the project Living Museum of Qais since 2019, and she's with us today to talk about that experience. So last but not least, our moderator of the session today, Ala Qattam. Ala has more than 10 years of experience in the area of project management with a special focus on arts and culture. She occupied several positions with the British Council across the different areas of arts, education, and society. Prior to rejoining British Council Jordan as the Arts Programs Manager in May 2021, she ventured into the areas of business development with a couple of Jordanian startups in the area of innovation and creativity. Ala is currently leading on a British Council strategic arts and cultural program focusing on the key areas of arts and digital, arts and disability, and cultural connections between Jordanian and UK artists, professionals, and organizations. So these are the speakers, and this is the moderator of today's session. And before we start our discussion, I will ask Dr. Arwa, since now you have the technical issues solved, to present the project of Learning from Multicultural Amman, just for the audience to know more about your project. I will share for you the screen from my end.
Thank you very much, Mona. Thank you for coordinating everything, and thank you, Ala, for sharing. And apologies about what happened earlier, but you know, panic over and all sorted. So hopefully we're back on track. Right. So this is just one slide I'm going to share just to show you a few images, and I like the contrast between the right and the left because it does pose the question of what kind of youth engagement do we want. Both are real, so it's very contrasting. And of course, we're looking towards the left side of youth engagement, kind of youth engagement. So in February 2019, the Learning from Multicultural Amman Engaging Jordan's Youth project was launched, funded by the HRC Newton-Khalidi Fund. A team of 12 professionals from 6 institutions from Jordan and the UK began working together over a period of 24 months, searching for successful practices for engaging the youth in their heritage. So our project aimed to identify good practice for engaging school children and university students in learning about their multicultural past through Jordanian museums. It focused on establishing and sustaining partnerships between museums, universities, and schools for the purpose of guiding future capacity building and enhancing standards across the sector. The project began with developing and delivering tailor-made museum education training program inspired by local and international good practice. So we did 5 training programs in total, 1 in Jordan, 1 in the UK, and 3 online. Nearly 55 trained from 24 institutions in total. Then we experimented with developing and implementing a set of educational activities in museums. Some were based on training programs, and then that informed other training programs that followed. We saw many good results, and I'm sure Sundus and Elena, who were involved in implementing activities on the ground, will be talking to you more about the approaches that were followed and how children were engaged in the process. Towards the end of the project, we produced guidelines of good practice in museum education for Jordan, which are the first of its kind to guide local museum work. We also have now a local museum network, local network of museum professionals with a Facebook page and a WhatsApp group where people can share museum-related news and activities. We were also delighted with the establishment of the Jordanian Museum Association led by Her Royal Highness Princess Sumaya bint al-Hassan on May the 18th of this year, which we saw as a key step in this project to creating a platform for developing the profession and the practice. That's all from me, Mona, for the brief on the project.
Thank you, Dr. Arwa. Dr. Jihan, I will invite you now to share your slides and to present the Living Museum of Qais project.
So thank you very much, Mona. Are my slides clear now? Are they visible? Okay, brilliant. Okay, so thank you very much, Mona, and for the British Council and for organizing the event and the talks. I think it's really useful and timely. The discussion about youth involvement and engagement in the research that we do, I think that's really vital. So well done, and thank you very much for inviting me. As Mona mentioned, I'm Jihan Salim, an associate professor of architecture at the University of Leeds, and I'm leading the Living Museum of Qais project, funded by the Newton-Khalidi Fund and the HRC as well in 2019. Why the Living Museum, and why did we want to look at Qais? Just very briefly, Qais is a distinctive archaeology and heritage site in northern Jordan, and it has been added to the UNESCO Tentative World Heritage List in 2001. The remains of the city still show theaters, churches, baths, and old Roman artifacts still there. So our pilot research and investigation and empirical work that we have done in Qais, through discussions with the community, the site director, the museum director, and the Department of Antiquities, what did it show us? It showed us that there is a chronic lack of heritage business capacity, facilities, infrastructure, and systems available to heritage authorities to develop creative recording and preservation of Jordanian antiquities. And this is mainly to support models of global tourism. The second is that Jordan, through its local researchers and heritage professionals, is in an urgent need for a sustainable research and technology infrastructure to support local expertise on arts innovation, preservation, and protection of its valuable heritage. Third is that the ancient city of Gadara in Qais is a key touristic destination in the region for both domestic and international visitors, which adds significant income to the local economy. Hence, the associated market for products offered by tourists and to tourists is highly competitive. So our project is part in an effort to rebuild the connections between the local community and the remains of the ancient city. We aimed to revitalize the young people's sense of place and interest in their heritage, first of all, and by doing so, to also support sustainable heritage approaches that benefit the economy and ensure protection for all aspects of the site's past. In this project also, we asked the question of how can cultural heritage help people in Jordan to reflect upon their strengths and their weaknesses, upon their values, upon their cultural treasures, and upon their cultural forces. And by doing that, we try to utilize participatory action research and co-production through several channels, as I will describe shortly. So first of all, through building new collaborations by developing an interdisciplinary and international partnership to support collaborative programs, we have been growing a massive network of interest through academic and non-academic partnerships, raising awareness as well to promote an understanding of participatory practice and how it can benefit the wider communities in Jordan and in Qais in specific, and as well building capacity by raising the profile of local expertise, early career researchers in Jordan to develop practical skills and training that would benefit the wider cultural sector in Jordan. Through training and capacity, and I will just touch base very quickly about what we have done. We utilize a breadth of experience and knowledge to engage the local young people in Qais to build capacity in mapping and recording using latest 3D digital approaches for cultural heritage, working with local universities, local SMEs, and enterprises in Jordan to co-design digital platforms. We delivered 3 on-site professional workshops with the local young people in Qais to co-create a digital resource on the site's artifacts and archaeological objects, which is first of its kind. Sorry. We also co-produced animations, short films, and online content titled The People of Qais to engage and celebrate that. We also run 4 parallel semester-long courses just in the spring of 2020. We engaged with 63 visual arts students at the nearby University of Jordan Technology for Science and Technology to co-produce children trail maps, community maps, site visitor resources, and customized artistic artifacts using architectural elements and resources from the site. As you see, they also co-produced short films that tried to capture the storytelling of the people of Qais as well. I'm trying to be very quick here. So what we were trying to approach here, learning through heritage and trying to enhance the youth engagement in the site. Overall, the methodology we implemented enabled the youth of Qais to go beyond the collective memory and become more analytical of the basis of identity that they already hold. The project activities and the outputs have several positive aspects so far. I'm just talking about a project that is still ongoing, so we haven't finally concluded yet, so we still have activities and outputs coming on. But first of all, they captured the young people interest of Qais and their imagination and allowed visualizing narratives of buildings and sites and stories of the people using new media for the first time. They also enabled moving in the virtual representation of historical sites to seek sources of evidence that allowed them to make conclusions on the basis of evidence, make their own judgments and their own conclusions, and realize which inquiry process is suitable to use the concept they are working on. And finally, they learned from non-symbolic first group experience and were encouraged to require to collaborate and provide the social atmosphere they are hoping to see. Just inviting you all, so we've created a website. We've been working on that website for 1.5 years now, so you'll find the majority of the work that we have been doing so far. So I would like to invite everyone to go and visit the Qais Heritage website, and even the logo that we have developed here, it's all co-produced by the students. We had no involvement in that at all, so it's all coming from them and co-produced by the young people we worked with. Would also like to invite you to our Facebook page and Twitter account, where we have all updates of our activities. And just as Mona rightly said at the start, We were delighted to have an opening yesterday of our exhibition that is now happening in Qais and taking place there for the coming 2 weeks, which again is disseminating some of the work that we have co-produced with the young people of Qais, and I'm talking about young people from Qais itself, its local community there, in addition to the students who have worked with us from the nearby universities as well. So would like to invite you to go there, and very soon, hopefully by the end of this week, we will have a virtual copy of the exhibition displayed on the website as well, and I'll be notifying you about that. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jihan. And I just wanted to share with everybody, I was personally visiting the exhibition at Qais yesterday. I had the pleasure to be there. And with all the amazing pieces of the project that I was able to see, the touching part was seeing how the locals feel the ownership of the project, how they were presenting their work, how they worked with the academic professors as well until dawn and spending all the night just to avoid the day heat. And it was really touching to hear the stories from the locals themselves as well, because they are the key part of the project. And that was really felt while going through the exhibition. So I will encourage everyone in Jordan or visiting sometime soon to go to Qais and visit the exhibition that is delivered by this project. So I have to say, well done, Dr.
Thank you very
Jihan and
much.
the team. So yeah, so for now, I think after we presented the project, you have an idea about these projects, and to have more understanding of what the youth element in specific had to do with these projects. We have Ala kindly to moderate this session and to ask the speakers few questions and to hear from them. So after these questions, we will offer a slot for questions and answers. So I will invite you all to take notes of your questions to be asked at the end of the session, or you can also use the chat bar, and I will monitor the chat bar for all your questions to make sure all of them are answered. And stay tuned to the end of the session, because I have a colleague here at the embassy to make a short announcement for the Jordanian youth in collaboration, of course, with the UK universities. So stay around to hear more about that. And enough of Muna for now. I will leave it to Ala to start the discussion with the speakers. Thank you, Ala, and I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Muna. And first of all, and before we move on to our conversation with our magnificent speakers and participants today, just please allow me to express how honored and thrilled I am today to meet you all and get the chance to engage with you in a very stimulating discussion about cultural heritage in Jordan. This is an area that is very relevant to the work we're doing at the British Council currently through the Culture Protection Fund, and also the different program elements we're running on the local level. And good afternoon, our audience members as well. I can see many familiar names joining us today. So just to explain my role today will be actually very fittingly be similar to that of a touristic guide. That is guiding a tour into your projects by asking a few main questions about your achievements and experiences. You will, of course, have the floor to elaborate as you can see fit, but may I draw your attention that in order to cover all the elements of our conversation today, I will ask you to bear in mind that you'll have around 3 minutes to answer each question, 3 minutes for each speaker. So if you do not get the chance to touch on a certain element you plan to share with us, we'll have some time, I think, towards the end as part of the Q&A session with the audience to share what you have in mind, as Muna kindly stated in the beginning. And so now, without any further ado, let us kick off the discussion, starting with a question that is always on the back of our minds, I think, whenever we witness such impressive projects such as the ones we're having today. So let's start with both Dr. Arwa and Dr. Jihan. Perhaps Dr. Arwa can answer the question first. So can you please tell us, how did the collaboration initiate? So in other words, how have you heard about the call? How did you apply to it? And how did you form your consortium of partners?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ala. This is really interesting because you get to see what's happening behind the scenes before the application is put in. So the call for participation in the Newton-Khalidi workshop that was held in June 2018 was forwarded to me by Dr. Mary Brooks, whom I work with on delivering the MA Heritage program at Durham University. So after that, I attended the workshop, and then I approached Dr. Shada Abu Khafaja, who's a leading professional scholar in community heritage in Jordan, as a Jordanian PI. And then I approached Professor Robin Skeets with his extensive experience in museums and public archaeology as a UK PI. And then I went to Jordan 3 months after to meet with potential partners who were invited to join the project based on its objectives and how can each contribute to achieving them. So the Department of Antiquities was the most obvious and vital choice for us as the leading governmental institution for the public museum sector, which we were targeting being the largest sector in the country. And also having the Jordan Museum on board was also important. Established as a national museum back in 2010, it provided a good example of youth engagement and educational practices to learn from for our project. There was also exceptional work being done by architecture students at the Hashemite University with Dr. Shada Abu Khafaja, and conservation students at the University of Jordan with Dr. Fatma Mar'i on interpretation, community engagement, and heritage protection, which provided an opportunity to involve them and see how they can contribute and benefit from working with museums. We also had CLF for vocational training and protection of cultural heritage joining the team, whose work on community engagement in protecting heritage, including the youth in particular, so school children and university students, has been praised locally and internationally. We also had Durham Library and Collections as a partner from the UK, who work with thousands of children in the Northeast, and with Durham University students as part of their learning program. And just to say that even during the project, we developed more partnerships, such as the Children's Museum, Schumann Foundation Library, and the Center for British Research in the Levant, through which we received further support in our project activities and helped us even to reach targets beyond our objectives.
Thank you, Dr. Arwa. That is a very interesting behind-the-scenes story for sure. Dr. Jihan, please tell us your behind-the-scenes story as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Ella. I think there's a lot of similarities with Arwa's story. And actually, I met Arwa at the workshop in Jordan for the first time. So it was a pleasure knowing Arwa there in 2018. So yes, it was an invitation by the HRC that I have received through the International Research Office at the University of Leeds, who came and approached me and forwarded the invitation to me. And I think I received it through HRC as well. I got a direct invitation from them to alert me about the networking workshop. So yeah, I applied for it and I went to Jordan for the first time. And I was really impressed by the amount of expertise in the room. So we were about 40 of us, 20 from Jordan, 20 from UK, and getting to know really amazing scholars working on the sector of cultural heritage, not only in Jordan, but across the globe as well. I was really delighted to be part of the networking and brainstorming of ideas, and I think that was the purpose of the network event. So we stayed there for about 2 or 3 days, just having really critical discussions, trying to exchange knowledge and expertise and to know what each other is doing as well. This is where I also met the majority of my Jordanian partners on the project, which I will just list at the moment. So for the team, I have to say that we are a large interdisciplinary team, meaning that we come from different disciplines and different backgrounds. So I'm an architect myself, and then we are partnering as well with our co-investigator at Nottingham Trent University, which is the Center of Architecture, Urbanism and Global Heritage. We also have a co-investigator from the UK who is a computer scientist who is working with us on creating the digital database for Qais. The research assistant working from us from the UK is an archaeologist who came to join us in Leeds in 2019 as well. From Jordan, we have partnered with a wide range of amazing, really partnerships and collaborations. First of all, which was Dr. Munder Jamhawi, who was the previous director of the Department of Antiquities in Jordan. So he is the Jordanian PI on that side, along with Dr. Shuaib Quda from University of Just as well. We have Dr. Shada Abu Khafaji from the Hashemite University as well, who was a co-I on the project. Part of the partnerships as well is Carol Palmer. I think Carol is here joining us, but she's muted. But yeah, this is where I knew Carol, and she started to give us the ideas of who can be on board as well with us, and put me in touch with them. We also had Samia Khouri from the Department of Antiquities, who's a partner on the project. Along with institution and cultural institutions, we definitely have the Jordan Museum as a partner, and the Qais Museum through Ibrahim Rusan, who is part of the Department of Antiquities as well. So this is how we started. This has been growing for the past 2 years. More and more are coming on board, and we have more partnerships happening on Leeds. So a major one will be having the Leeds museums and galleries as partnerships as well. So we will try very soon to mirror and bring the exhibition here to Leeds very soon, and hopefully there will be an opportunity for wider dissemination across the UK.
Thank you, Dr. Jihan, very much for this comprehensive background story. I met Dr. Munder through Muna some weeks ago, and I could sense his passion as well for the Qais project as well. As you said, I think the ultimate goal of all networking events is to establish meaningful partnerships. We go in to networking events just to do that, and I think you've been really fortunate, I think, to establish such meaningful partnerships. So just before I move on to my next question, can I ask all audience members to mute, please, their laptops, as we can hear some background noise. So now it's time to move to the focus group of our session today, the youth. So moving on to you, Sundus and Rania, I'll offer the question for both of you, and perhaps Sundus can begin by answering this. So how did you engage with the project? What was the level or the role of your engagement in this project, Sundus?
Was part of a team whose mission was to design and create interactive material for school children to engage them with heritage. This team consisted of students from the architecture department of the Hashemite University. The students were enrolled in the course Conservation of Architectural Heritage course, and the course was taught by Dr. Shada Abu Khafaja. My team designed an interactive model which clarified the different cultures that lived in the heritage site we examined. In this model was designed so that the school children can pull each layer and study it, learn about it, and engage with the item we included in each layer. For example, one layer included the theater as the landmark of the culture presented in that layer. We also designed logos for the site. We presented to capture the children's attention through figures and shapes that tell a story about heritage. These are some of the logos in the chat bar, some photos in the chat bar. On the day we presented the logos to the school children, we discussed some of the logos and asked the children to redraw their favorite logo. This was a great opportunity to see how excited and creative school children were. The children interaction with the model and the logos left its mark on the team. For example, Shurut, one of the team member, decided to get further training in heritage. She is now working with Sella, with Dr. Elena. Also, another team member wanted to do further studies about how children engage with architecture. For myself, the project got me interested in how people can have different perception of the same thing, and how everyone's perception is equally interested and valuable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandus. And you touched on a very I think important point as well, and that is the involvement of children. I think it's always eye-opening, unfortunate for any project to have, you know, an element working directly with children. You get to see their creativity and passion as well for the work. Thank you so much. Rania, would you like please to tell us more about the engagement with the project and your role in it?
Thank you, and nice to meeting you all. At first, I would like to thank all who were responsible about the whole work, which gave me and my country a chance and present it to the whole world, which concern and archaeology and tourism. It's my pleasure to be one of the chosen from the youth project and be one of the volunteers in this work. I was engaged in this work throughout the Department of Antiquity, which represented by Mr. Musa Malkawi in 2019 and Dr. Munder Jamhawi. The project was separated into groups, one of it working at documentation of the Jordan historical and archaeological information and oral history from the local people to make a base for traditional legacies. The other group worked on 3D modeling for archaeological objects using specialist programs to proceed the 3D modeling, like what we see in the results. Then we continue with Dr. Jamal in another phase time to finishing up our work by meeting the eldest at Kes who born and lived at Al-Har al-Foka to tell us about the living and life, how was that. And I'm worked in the second group on 3D modeling on Agi software. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rania. That's very interesting indeed. Now moving on to Dr. Elena. I'm so fortunate that I'm not forced to pronounce the name of your university. I think Muna did a great job. I wouldn't be able to do it. But Dr. Elena, would you please tell us about the impact of your project on the short term and, if applicable as well, your long-term plans?
Yes, sure. Our project, as Dr. Arwa mentioned, involved training both in UK and Jordan, which I believe triggered many ideas on both groups involved in the project. And so on the short term, we had a lot of new activities that were designed, especially in public museums, which I think was quite a new introduction for public museums in Jordan. But then with the COVID-19 emergency, we have faced some difficulties, especially for our long-term plans, which were involving kids' activities for the second phase of the project. And so, thanks to the network that was created by the project, we were able to actually resource and be creative. So besides some online workshops that were organized by the different museums involved in the project, we were also able to work on both designing new activities for school children when hopefully we will all back in presence to visit museums. And but also we have been working on toys that will engage children with archaeology and hopefully bring them to like inspire them to visit museums more. So we have been working on several prototypes, and two of them have been are now commercialized and will be sold for kids between 7 and 10 years of age, which involves mosaic. It's a mosaic DIY kit that is based on real existing mosaics in Jordan, so that kids actually get to know some of their heritage by also playing. And another important outcome of the project, which will have hopefully a long-term impact, is the creation of a book series about archaeological sites in Jordan, which has been so within the project we created the first book, and then many projects have been shown interest, and so this is now becoming a series involving different sites in Jordan. And in addition to that, we designed some activities for the museums, which, as I say, now that schools are coming back in presence, hopefully will be implemented now with this new year, school year.
Thank you so much, Dr. Elena. You touched on an important point that COVID-19 really pushed us to be really creative and unleash the creative side with us. You know, the mosaic DIY kit is such a marvelous idea, I personally think. And I think we also shared some links to the book series in the chat box. So if anyone is interested to know more, you can check the links in the chat. Great. Rania, going back to you. Would you like to tell us about the impact of your project, whether on the short term and if applicable on the longer term as well?
Yes, the project was amazing and creative in many things, and how it gathered the whole disciplines working together to make a unique results that will stay and help who comes after to continue this work and benefit it. The project helps me and developing my thoughts about my work at Petras Roman Theatre. Like, why don't use 3D modeling to present the theater during different phases, and how much I will be useful to use the oral history in Petras.
Yeah.
Petras, it was called Capitolius, and it was one of the Decapolis cities located at north of Irbid city. Petras in my project, and sorry, I'm just explain Petras city.
Take your time.
And why don't use 3D modeling to present the theater during different phases, and how much will be useful to use the oral history in Petras in my project and present the past and the present together to make sure that the main point of the project hit the ring. And this project inspired me to request the help from my colleagues in the archaeology field. Some of them there are already. Like Ala, Niveen, Imad, Diya, Shadda, whom have an excellent background in archaeology of the site, and some of them are working on 3D modeling skills. So we're working in the research, and I hope it's succeed despite of our limited capabilities of the tools, and to make sure that my research result will help and be useful to whom come after to continue the work to present Petras to the whole world. And thank you.
Thank you, Rania. Thank you so much. And my next question, I will touch on your point about involving youth. My next question is for Dr. Arwa. So Dr. Arwa, touching on Rania's answer, how have you thought about the youth element in particular? Was it something that is planned originally in the project, or was it requested in the call for proposals when it was announced?
I think.
Yes, thank you, Ala. You know, community engagement was one of the themes in the original call, which paved the way for us to target youth engagement more specifically, which is actually a matter of utmost importance. I mean, this is partly a PhD research that I've done back in 2003, and it's also built on other research done in the same area, which is related to the Jordanian education system, which has so far failed to engage this young population in learning about their multicultural past. So despite archaeological evidence of about 1.5 million years of human occupation in the Levant, the Jordanian national curriculum provides a single national narrative focused on Arab and Islamic pasts, hence, excluding perhaps over 99% of the past in Jordan. It also teaches children that the prime value of Jordan's archaeological heritage is a resource for tourism. So children are likely to grow into adulthood lacking awareness of and appreciation for their multicultural heritage. Second of all, we believe in the importance of introducing museums as learning resources to educators, particularly teachers. However, there is a lack of regular and structured educational provision for school children within the museum sector in Jordan. While limited financial resources are a common problem for many, the lack of qualified education staff in Jordanian museums is particularly problematic. For example, the role of education officer is still non-existent within the governmental Jordanian museum sector. And finally, we wanted to address capacity building starting early on with the youth by linking museums with the universities to address capacity building for students. So we're talking about developing student volunteering, internships, and recruitment, since most of their curricula are structured around lectures, exams, and assignments. So we feel that students need to graduate with particular experience that's practical on the ground and skills in the museum and heritage sector, combined with networking opportunities for enhancing employability in the future. And just to conclude, to say that our project was actually shortlisted for the Newton-Khalidi Prize last year. We feel privileged and honored, and we're proud of our team because this is kind of a proof of the importance of this concept and idea of the project and how hard we worked and the results that we ended up with.
Thank you so much, Dr. Arwa, and congratulations again for being shortlisted for the prize last year.
Thank you.
No wonder, and I think most of us agree that when you involve children from younger ages, when they grow up, that converts into a sense of ownership and protection of our own cultural heritage.
Yes, absolutely. Just one thing, technical question. We would like to share some of the products that we've done, but we're not sure how to do it. We're very novice when it comes to Zoom and Teams. Is it okay if we forward this by email and maybe to you or Muna, and then you can share it on the chat?
Yes, Dr. Arwa.
Okay, thank you.
I will let Ala continue the discussion. If you can share that with me on the email, I will make sure to share it on the chat box.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Muna, for stepping in. Moving on to Dr. Jihan. Dr. Jihan, can you please tell us how did you come about involving youth in your project as well?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ala. So working with the youth, I'm hesitant to say did I involve them from the start or not. So I will just say that the focus of my work and research projects in general, as Mona rightly mentioned, that I have several other projects in Iraq and Lebanon and so on. I have decided to work with the youth in multiple contexts, so not only in Jordan. So I think when we started the Qais Heritage Project, we had to do a little bit of tweaks and shifts, and to see who are our appropriate stakeholders to work with. So yes, students from JUST were included. Students from the University of Hashemite were included in the original bid. However, talking to the local community and mainly talking to Mr. Musa Malakawi and Mr. Ibrahim Rusan, who are the hub of Qais, it's always about bringing the voices of the people and the local people living in the place to know what their needs are. And this is where we started to have that kind of in communication with them at the start. And I was really fortunate before the COVID to make a 1-week trip to stay there in Qais myself and be there 24/7 and talk to the people there, and to get the support of Mr. Musa Malakawi, who is the director of the Qais site, who was, you know, I just can say that he made the extensive effort of putting me in touch with everyone, recruiting the volunteers, and as Rania rightly mentioned, he approached Rania and many others as well. So I think that was a little bit of a shift in attitude and methodology that we used. For me, why did I want to engage the youth? Maybe I will need to go back a little bit to step out from a specific context and just to reflect a little bit more conceptually of why the engagement of the youth is important, maybe at least on the kind of research that I'm trying to do that involves cultural heritage. And we all know that, you know, youth represent 1/5 of the world population now. So it's a really big portion of people that we cannot ignore. They are there, they exist, and there is accumulating problems that we have to look at and address in the research that we do. Just for a quick example, the British Council Next Generation Global Research Report last year highlighted 2 critical areas for concerning about young people. The first one is about education, where young people feel that the quality of education is lacking and does not prepare youth for employment opportunities. And the second one, which really is very important, equally important, is the availability of decent work. So whereas unemployment is rapidly growing due to political, economic, social reasons, I'm not going to go through that now, but it's the dropping rates of economic growth is having and hitting the youth really hardly. And that probably are the 2 pillars that are driving the work I'm doing with the youth. In terms of the education, we tried as much as we can to address that in the Living Museum of Qais, the availability of decent work, and taking that further, we're hoping that this is coming into a new kind of project we're trying to propose to cover this area as well. So by that, we will be able to have that kind of balance with working with the community. So through the project, we try to understand how creativity for young people could have its impact and engage them into notion of change, empowerment, and development. Those are the 3 keywords we're really trying to work with and to infuse it in the kind of mentality of working with the youth. So it's not just about productions and activities, but I think there needs to be a change in mentality, a change in how we look at the future, and a change in how do we adapt and provide the proper skills for them to take these ideas further. And we know, all of us, that making change is very difficult. And actually for the youth, who determines the change? So how does that work? Is it bottom-top approaches? Is it the opposite? We're all still struggling into that dilemma of what is the proper process of making change. And we're trying to find answers co-produced and co-created by the youth to answer those questions. And the second thing, as I mentioned, is the empowerment. And the question about change is also linked to empowerment. So we try to articulate a meaningful change that happens not only by the individuals and the community level only. No, we're not trying to focus on that only, but also at the broader level of interaction. So let me give just one example. By engaging the young people into the critical analysis and the discussions we had, and I tried to show some of those workshops and those kind of talks that we had with them in Qais when we were still fortunate to have that kind of one-to-one engagement with them, which still happened through the partnership that we had in Jordan. But actually, who owns the stories? Who owns the history? And I think they need to get that kind of feeling of ownership, of confidence, of we have the story and we need to keep retelling it and passing it from generation to generation. And I think this is something that we had successfully done with them, and we try to disseminate and showcase in the work that we have doing. And the last thing is the development aspect. So where the need for change is also bounded by creating development and the desire for social and economic development and change for them. But again, as I said, it's always the question that whose version of development counts. Is it the youth? Is it the institution? Is it a combination of both of them? Hence, we're trying to create that kind of link of co-production, co-creation, and co-design. So it's always about multiple players having different roles, but we're all coming up with an idea that is generated from all of us and not from one. So really, that's the kind of approach that we try to use in Qais project to try to bring the youth and the young people on board. And I think the message is coming by time and it's growing, and hopefully that we will be able to go back to Qais once this project is finished and maybe go back again with a new fund to go and continue the work.
Thank you, Dr. Jihan. You mentioned so many important points that I don't know where to start. So basically, just I think the main underlying term you used is co-production, co-programming, and for it as well to be evidence-based and informed by the context analysis, etc. It's very important to involve as many stakeholders as possible. I'm just curious, Dr. Jihan, when you first started to engage the youth, what was your expectation in the beginning, and what was after implementation, after you involved them, what was the outcome of it?
Okay. I learned from experience to have low expectations at the start. But I just, as if I'm talking now, I am over the moon of what we have achieved. And I'm not saying this from my personal experience, but as I said, I've been talking and I'm having weekly discussions with everybody in Qais. I know that I'm in the UK, I'm not there, but we're still having that kind of continuity. So all our volunteers are still in communication with us. So anything we need, we just drop them a message. And they immediately, without thinking, they just respond to us. Mr. Musa Malakawi's role in that project has been amazing. I was delighted last week that he was telling me, and I'm just quoting what he said, is that this is the first time that a project in Qais will have actual outputs, that will have an impact, that included the local community into the work and the process. It's not just just a project that came with some funds and it will end and finish. So I think these testimonies will tell us that we have achieved what we started with, and actually by the time we have been trying to heighten our expectations and add more requests and add more actions towards them. And I have to say that the volunteers, and I would say that maybe Rania will agree, most of our volunteers were females, which I'm really something that I'm proud of. I can see the encouragement and enthusiasm in what they're trying to achieve. So they want to learn. That's what I can say. They want to learn. They want to uplift their skills. They want to do something better for that place. And it's not just because it's a heritage site. I think because it's a living space, and that where the project name came from. It's a living heritage. It's still ongoing. It's not just because it's something from the past of the Roman or yes, that exists, but again, big part of, and you will see that in the title of the project, that we also looked at the actual community living in Harat and Foka and so on. And this is where we tried to bring into the stories and the narratives. So if you go to the museum, if you go to visit the exhibition, we've got those lovely portraits of the key icons who participated in the project, and you'll find QR codes. Just scan it with your phone, and it will take you to videos and interviews of the people and the local community telling their own stories. So they are original, they are authentic, and we want to keep them up and running, and that's why we created the digital resource for it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jihan. This is the second time I talk to you, and I can always feel the sense of pride and ownership as well.
I'm so proud. I'm so proud of it. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Moving on to Dr. Elena, we're very interested to hear from you as well about the expectations from your side when you first started to involve youth in your project and the outcome of it as well. Dr. Elena?
You need to unmute first.
Can you hear me? So our project focused both on engaging university students and the school age children. For the university students, the approach was about trying to engaging with.
I think, Dr. Elena, I think we lost you for a second. Are you still there? Dr. Elena.
Archaeological sites and museums in a creative way. So both University of Jordan and Ashland University have been participating in
Yes, exactly, Mona. I think Dr. Elena, if you turn off the camera.
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
We can hear you, but I think the connection is very slow, so you are hearing us not on the time we're speaking. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Good.
Go ahead, please, Dr. Elena.
Okay. So what I feel with and school-age children. So the involvement of university students included the activities in the museums and especially with the Ashmite University students, which were already doing as part of some of their courses some activities and activities of museums, and they've been working on creating logos and also activities for kids to engage with the museums in a more creative way.
Mm-hmm.
And also about the school children, we have then developed a new way to engage the children with the archaeological sites in their community by doing workshops. So that children can actually contribute to the creation of the story. And so the Russia now offers workshops in the communities so that actually children can contribute to the creation of the story about theirs.
We're losing you for segments of time, Dr. Elena. So perhaps, I don't know if Dr. Arwa would like as well to follow up on my question, or for Sanders to pick it up.
Elena, sorry, because you're cutting off quite regularly, so we can't.
Which I think is one of the results that went even beyond our experience.
I think we're delayed too. Elena, I'm not going to be as detailed as you have been, but just to summarize some of the things you mentioned is, you know, in terms of engagement, the idea of producing learning resources was really, really key, because that's actually missing in museums. They're mostly based on traditional post-colonial displays, and that's not public engagement as it should be. So Sila has worked intensively on producing and piloting, and that was a really interesting process because we were following, you know, we in the UK were stuck. And that's part of partnership and relying on Jordanian partners to just get on with the work, and they know what they're doing. And we were just kind of watching and following up and really admiring the work that's been coming out. But so producing models, I've shared the model of the excavation box. So producing that took a lot of experimentation. The weight, you know, how could they put the layers on top of each other? And then they actually did a model for different museums. So the objects inside were modeled for different museums, and they've given these boxes to different museums. So there is something, a learning resource that they can use other than just, you know, going on a guided tour. The children storybook So one was produced about Karam and the Hand of Hercules, which is based on the Citadel Museum, the first activity we did. This was written by Rasha Dababne at the Children's Museum, and so Sila was managing this whole process. And they've launched the book, so I've shared a link to that news on the Jordan Times. And that book, they've actually they've done it based on children's stories, but also they got feedback from them, and now they're asked to do another 5 books on different sites in Jordan. So the book has been such a hit that there's a lot of interest in producing more of these, and they're really based on simplifying concepts of excavation and stratigraphy, as well as bringing us stories from the site. So it's not only produced by Russia, but by Russia and based on children's contributions and stories. And the feedback that they've been getting, because they've done a lot of online sessions during COVID with different school children around Jordan. So the feedback that they're getting is really positive. A lot of it is just children's comments about, I'm beginning to get interested in this. I want to visit this place, so that's all really important to notice and children's responses. I hope, Elena, I've given some brief of what you intended to say, but please do follow if you can.
Thank you, Dr. Arwa. Dr. Elena, would you like to follow up? If your connection is now fixed. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, but Dr. Jihan had her hand raised. I don't know if you can see that.
I can't see the okay, but go ahead, please.
I just want to second what Arwa said, is that we have all to acknowledge the amazing role of our local partners in helping and supporting our projects during this very difficult time. We haven't been hit for a couple of months. It's been nearly 2 years now that all of us almost are not able to travel to Jordan to do a lot of the work ourselves. But I have to say that without that right, proper partnership, those projects will have never been a success. And as Arwa said, absolutely right. They know what they're doing, and they are on board, and they are willing to help and support. And I'm talking about all levels. So I'm not able to mention somebody in specific, but they have been really amazing and on board and always there, not just saying, oh, it's a pandemic and we cannot go. So we are always updated when the sites are open, what we can do and what we cannot achieve because of their circumstances. So I just need to say that the right partnership is always key to the success of projects. And it's always the thing that we have to keep those partnerships live and ongoing. It should not end by the end of the lifetime of the project. And I think this is something that a little bit frustrates the people that we work with on the sites or the field work that we try to do, because by time they think that we are there for a very short time and then we leave and disappear and we don't come back again. But I think if they feel that they still have that local integration, that local line of having somebody from that part of Jordan still there and ongoing with the work, I think that builds a lot of confidence, it builds a lot of trust in what we're trying to do, and it brings everybody on board.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I second what you said, is that the right partnership and the right sense of ownership among all the partners is key to the success of the project. And I think what I found fascinating about your both projects is that their ability to extend beyond their immediate network of partners to work with other partners or stakeholders of relevant experience. And this is something very commendable, I have to say. Now, going back to the youth group in our discussion today, Sundus and Rania. So Sundus and Rania, we're really interested to hear from you directly. I'll start with the second half of the question. What kind of challenges did you face when you got involved in the project? And what was the lesson learned? So perhaps, Sundus, if you can pick up the question, and then we move on to Rania.
Actually, it was challenging preparing the material we presented for the school children. We spent sleepless nights preparing the material and making sure it suits school children level understanding. We had to research how school children learn and the most effective way we can use to capture their attention. But our hard work was rewarded, as the way the school children engaged with the materials was excellent.
Wonderful. Rania?
Yes. The challenge is really converted to the best moments to me. Like when I meeting new people, especially eldest persons of case, and dealing with was the biggest fear. But when we when we go through that and they ways that people deal with me and how passion they were make my works easy and are and interested and working with a new team that totally I didn't know before and how we do the plan to make the work done. It was a challenge for me because that I didn't know the youth before, and they come from different places. But the soul of the project come from the love of Case City, and we were all met on it. So we gave the project all our energies. Taking digital high accurate photos for archaeological objects, it's also a challenge that make us to retake new photos many times and to make the best results on Agisoft software when we working in 3D modeling. Yes, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Rania, and it's evident that the love for the site is what's driving you to contribute very, very positively to the project. And you actually jumped on my second half of the question about the best moments you had while being involved in the project. So I don't know, Sundos, if you have any best moments you'd like to share with us all.
Sure, I have. I remember the excitement we as a class had when we first met Dr. Arwa Badran in the Citadel. Dr. Arwa talked about the project as being based on engaging the young generation with their heritage. She focused on our role as university student in this engagement. That meeting with Dr. Arwa in the Citadel and her excitement, which was contagious, was something my friend and I talked about for weeks. The meeting established our partnership and the project as university student. So we carried this excitement and sense of partnership with us to our studios where we worked on designing material for school children to engage with heritage sites and learn from them. Of course, the big day, the day when we met the school children in Jabal al-Qal'a and when they engaged with the models and the logos we produced was a memorable day. We still remember and talk about the day until today. That was back in December 2019, a few months before Corona hit the world. The children excitement and the engagement with the material we produce about heritage was another special moment in our participation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sundos. And I have to say, all your positive energy is really contagious to us all today. So thank you so much. And I cannot even think of a more fitting closing to our discussion today other than the one you have just concluded with through your best moment sharing, you, Sundos and Rania. So please just allow me to thank you all, Sundos, Rania, Dr. Elena, Dr. Arwa, and Dr. Jihan, for your lively and thoughtful participation today. It has been indeed such a perfect afternoon for me personally, and it was such a great conversation with such inspiring speakers and participants. Thank you all, and over to you, Muna, for the Q&A session.
Thank you, Ala, for your excellent moderation of today's session, and thank you all for sharing all your experience and the special moments as Sundas described them. I know that these would make an impact, which we all wanted to see from such projects, because the overall objective at the end of the day of the Newton-Khalidi Fund is to support economic development and social welfare of the communities, and this is an evidence of how that is impacting the people of Qais and the youth of Amman as well from the other project. So I will invite anyone who has any questions to put them in the chat bar. To be on track of time, I would ask my colleague Aya Alayan, who will be sharing some exciting news with everyone. And Aya, please, Aya is the Chevening and Media Officer who will share some updates on the Chevening scholarships with us today.
Hello all, how are you? Can you hear me first? Okay, perfect. So my name is Aya, I'm Chevening and Media Officer. Thank you, Muna, thank you all for the opportunity. So you can see Chevening pen, Chevening poster all around the office. And this one. So today I'm gonna introduce Chevening to you, speaking to you about eligibility criteria, and I'll also share with you my email in case you have any questions about Chevening. You can send by email to me and I'll make sure to answer all these questions. So I will switch off the camera to avoid any bad connection. So I'm just saying. So now we'll start introducing Chevening. So what is Chevening? Chevening is the UK government's international scholarships program. It is funded by the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office and partner organizations. What we offer awards to study in the UK for 1 year on a fully funded master's degree. Successful Chevening candidates come from a diverse range of countries and backgrounds, but they all demonstrate passion, vision, and skills needed to shape a better world. What are the benefits to being selected? First of all, the fully funded tuition fees, access to some of the best quality education in the world, exclusive networking opportunities, and the chance to explore the UK's diverse culture. At the end of your scholarship, you will join our diverse community of over 50,000 global alumni. You will return home equipped with the knowledge and networks to bring your ideas to life and thrive in your career. It doesn't matter where you come from, it's where you're going that counts. So now, I know all of you are asking yourselves, so what do I need to apply for Chevening? So I'll start with the required documents. All Chevening applicants must submit their education documents, the university documents, transcripts, references, and one unconditional UK university offer. The deadline for these required documents are in this link. I'll send this link to you now.
I will do that, Aya, don't worry, so you can continue.
Okay. And if you are conditionally selected for a Chevening scholarship, it is essential that you submit these documents in order to remain in the process. So what's after sending your application? You will receive an email update about your application at each step of the selection process. You can also check your status on the online application system, log in using your registration details, and now you can take a look at the Chevening application timeline and the frequently asked questions for a better understanding of the upcoming stages of the selection process. Thank you, Mona. So Mona shared the Chevening application timeline. And if you can, Mona, please share the frequently asked questions. Now the application guidance and the eligibility. You may wish to review our guidance to help you with the next steps, and to take a look at the references and how to write your application and the eligibility criteria. So I'll tell you something, that applications are now open, and they are open until 2nd of November. So please, if you are interested, please apply now. And if you find yourself eligible applicant for Achieving, we are looking for you. Please apply now, and we are waiting for you. So now I'll be sharing my email with you. If you have any questions, please send by email, and I'll make sure to reply to your email as soon as possible. Here's my email.
Thank you very much, Aya, and I hope this is all helpful for everyone. Please do share it with anyone you feel would be interested to study in the UK and do their masters in a UK university. Having shared with you this, Gayatri, may I invite you to unmute yourself and maybe share your question here. And just for everyone else to know, Gayatri was the lead of the Newton-Khalidi Fund in the past few years. And yesterday when I was at the exhibition in Qais, I was like, Gayatri should have been here to see the outcomes of what she started 3 years back. And please, Gayatri, do ask your question to the team.
Thank you very much, and thanks for this fascinating discussion. I'm so happy to be here. And my question was actually about the gaming industry in Jordan, because I know that Jordan has a thriving sort of video games development sector. And I just wondered, both in terms of highlighting children in the stories of sort of multicultural Oman, and also the sort of the living heritage and the architectural heritage of Qais, whether the projects had considered any collaborations with, whether it's companies or groups developing games, to use those as a tool for engaging children and youth in the amazing sort of work that they're creating. Thank you again. Thanks. Thank you, Muna.
Thank you, Gayatri. I'm gonna go with the same protocol and go ahead, Jihan, if you don't mind. But it's actually this is one of the ideas that we wanted to pursue, and that's why we applied for the Newton-Khalidi Prize. So we were going digital, and we were going digital not only with the gaming, but just trying to find a digital platform for everybody to be on in the sector, and then launch programs, games, everything from that platform. Also, Elena, they've done some work on that with trying out prototypes. Elena, I don't know if the connection is okay at your end. Maybe you can talk a bit about that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. So yes, I mean, for our part of the project as SILA, we have been working mostly on physical prototypes, so not on games, online games or digital games, but in the process of doing this work, many ideas came up, including collectibles and possible merchandise. So we have now the prototypes that we have developed through Newton-Khalidi have been taken over by another company that is also aims at protecting heritage. And so through that we are developing developing and testing new products and new games. And so, yeah, no, it is definitely a great idea to look also at something digital, which will have definitely more success based on my personal experience with my children.
Yeah, I'll answer this as well. I think the idea, Gayatri, was on board from the first day of writing the bid for this project. So, and as I mentioned, one of our co-investigators, major co-investigators in the UK, is Dr. He Wang, who is a specialist in computer sciences and gaming. So we had this idea from the start, from day one. And we have, as I said, we have co-produced like a lot of outputs for engaging the youth and children for activities when they come. So we're looking at the visitors when they come, how can they engage? So it's happening both ways. So probably I showed some of this in my presentation, but this is like one sample, one example of we created like heritage and history trail maps specifically for the children, and we've created 11 of those. So this is just one of them with the complete portfolio of how to use it and guidance to use it, and that is in Arabic and in English. And this is now on display in Qais in the exhibition. So if any visitors are going there, they will just go and grab that sheet and go and make the tour on the site and start filling information and so on. So we've created that kind of engagement through using gaming. The next phase of that is that we're trying to make that digital as well. And this is what our co-investigator is working on. He's a specialist in that. So we're going to have those resources all available online, open access, so anybody can use them at any time. Maybe what I did not mention in my discussion today is that there's another side of the project of creating interactive virtual reality environment. So through the whole duration of the project, we have completed professional 3D scanning for the entire site of Gadara. And we have been, the models have been taking a lot of time, and now they are on display in the exhibition as well. So if you go there, So if you go there, that's one of the images yesterday. So that's the dean of the School of Architecture and Visual Arts testing and using it. So you can just put on the Googles and interact through a virtual environment with the site of Gadara, where you can start to have some hotspots and some information will pop up, some interviews. It's a mix of media that we have been working on extensively for the past year and a half. And involved in that work, I have to say, amazing young SMEs and entrepreneurships, and we're very keen to work with young and local SMEs, not big brands, to get them on board, and they were also helping a lot with supporting with the capacity building and the training as well. So, and that's where I say the network started a bit moderate, and it has been growing and growing and growing. We were fortunate to work with 3 SMEs in digital and gaming, digital production and gaming, and hopefully we will continue the work with them as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I hope that was answered, Gayatri, and thank you, Dr. Arwa and Dr. Jihan. I'm conscious we're by the end of the time of today, but I'm also conscious that we still have 32 participants waiting. So if anyone has any questions before we wrap up, or any comments for the project, for the 2 projects we're hosting today, please unmute yourself and speak up and share with us your question. I will give that few seconds just to make sure we're not leaving anyone behind.
Mona, if there is no one, if there's no comment, just can I say something really important about the sustainability aspects of these projects? Because I think that's really key. That, as Jihan said, that we don't parachute in and then depart and then kind of things deteriorate afterwards. And how can you make sure that this not only continues, but also there is work that's being built on? And I must stress very, very much about the equal partnership that should start right from the start of the project, that we're all on board in meetings, in sharing ideas and deciding, like making decisions. So the idea of ownership is not only that we have our names on the application, but actually in practice to keep that going all the way through. And I feel that this is really important now when I see, for example, CELA continuing on with their projects, and they're doing lots of other work in museums and trails and stories. And I can, even though the project ended, there's a continuation. And also it's done by Jordanians for Jordanians. And that is really key. This is a sentence I stole from Eleanor. We need to keep pushing the the local initiative. And seeing Sundus and Rania here is also really, really important. They are an excellent example of what we have in our universities, of that creativity, that enthusiasm. We need to build on that, you know, for them to continue on with their education and then to come back and pursue the same kind of, you know, on the same wavelength as we started. So I can't stress enough on that. We have to start thinking about people and sort of, rather than the material, you know, the minds of the people. So I hope that is taken on board.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dia Mazari. I just want to say nice to meet you, all of you. And Muna, if you remember me yesterday at MK's, yeah, it was wonderful. And thank you for your helping us just to do what we love to do in this area. Thank you.
That's a beautiful comment, Dia. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm just gonna repeat myself here. The overall objective of the Newton-Khalidi Fund is to touch the souls and the locals and the people. So we won't be able to support the economy without the people who are impacted by the economy, right? So I think the examples that we see of these projects, the uniqueness of the partnerships, this is the second episode only, but it's the connection that is unique and that is different to the other connections that has been here. And yesterday in the, I'm sorry, I keep using the, was the very recent and one after a long time of not being engaged with projects. But one of the locals commented saying that for 30 years, we have been waiting for such a partnership that demonstrates impact. And this is the first one that shows impact. Exactly. And I was very proud because this is exactly what we want to see from such partnerships. As you quoted Dr. Elena, that it is done by Jordanians and for Jordanians. And this is what the UK is trying to do, is to empower and give the support needed for Jordanians to do what they're doing in these partnerships and to sustain that in the longer term. So I have to thank you, and I think I will need 10 more minutes just to comment on what you shared today. It was really inspiring, really excellent, and this is exactly what we want to share with the world, not only with the UK and Jordanians, as best practices and stories of success of such partnerships. So thank you truly from the heart for sharing all of these details of your projects. I hope this was also inspiring for the attendees. And thank you again, Ala from British Council, for moderating and being with us here in the session. I hope you enjoyed it. Please watch the space for the next sessions. Each session will have something special and unique. So stay tuned to hear more about our Newton-Khalidi Science Talks. And I promise I will share all of the links and the details that we shared today in a follow-up email with the evening presentation indeed, and the how to apply guidance. So thank you all for joining. Thanks for the speakers and Ala. And thank you, Gayatri. This is a special thanks. I have to make it before you leave.
Thank you, Muna.
Thank you all. Thank you.